My name is Roland and I am a heart surgeon. I have spent most of the last 2 decades of my life with my wife Lydia. We have lived a peaceful and fulfilling life, loved each other dearly, and accomplished much in our respective careers. As a doctor, I am always mindful of my responsibility. Every operation and every patient is a mission given to me by God. With my professionalism and hard work, I have saved countless lives. In the hospital, my colleagues say that Roland is a good and reliable doctor, and my patients regard me as the guardian of their lives. My dear wife, Lydia, is a talented philanthropist. 10 years ago, she founded a nonprofit organization that provides all kinds of help to the less fortunate in society. From children in orphanages to the homeless, from the destitute with serious illnesses to women who have been victims of domestic violence, her love is in every corner of the world. Lydia's charity haven is the last light in the hearts of countless desperate people. To the outside world, Roland and Lydia are an enviable couple. They have successful careers, a beautiful family, and are dedicated to charity work. We often attend charity dinners together to give back to the community. Whenever I see Lydia talking on stage, I feel so proud of her. Our lives are like a warm and fuzzy movie, with no sign of gloom or cracks. However, as in all movies, the climax often arrives unnoticed. That day, when I accidentally glanced at a message on my Lydia phone, everything changed. It was a normal evening when I returned home from my usual shift, and Lydia was answering the phone in the living room, her tone brisk and her face beaming with excitement. I couldn't help but be curious, as she had been answering the phone in this manner for the last few months. "Hi, honey. How's work going?" I kissed her on the cheek. And Lydia hung up the phone in a panic and smiled at me. "It's fine. Just a lot going on lately." I nodded in understanding. As a surgeon, I know all too well what it's like to have a busy schedule. And with Lydia's philanthropic endeavors in full swing, she's only going to have more on her plate than ever before. Gradually, however, some small changes began to catch my attention. Lydia began to attend painting exhibitions and art salons more frequently, spending half a day at a time. Previously, she was not a big fan of these events. The few times I tried to go to the exhibitions with her, she gave various reasons for not doing so. Another noteworthy change is that Lydia began to dress up with extra care. New dresses, expensive jewelry, designer bags. I am pleased to think that perhaps the success of her charity work has made her gradually fall in love with the glamorous life. Gradually, Lydia seemed to be devoting more and more time to these hobbies than I expected. Several times when I came home from work, I didn't see her. When I called her, the answer I got was that she was either attending a charity event or hanging out with friends for coffee. Family gatherings and dates have become fewer and farther between. We used to be a notoriously loving couple, but now, even a full dinner was a luxury. Whenever I try to talk to Lydia about these changes, she apologizes and says she'll take care of it, only to do the same thing the next time. I didn't think of giving Lydia more understanding and tolerance, but I couldn't suppress the uneasiness that grew in my heart. Especially once, I unintentionally caught a glimpse of Lydia and a young man talking and laughing in a cafe. That kind of familiar and intimate tone of voice, that kind of reckless smile, seems to be déjà vu, but has never appeared in front of me. I'm not a jealous person, but this time, my intuition told me it wasn't that simple. I held back my doubts and decided to wait and see for a while. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. Lydia will never betray our marriage and love. However, my naivety was soon shattered by reality. The man's presence began to appear more frequently and Lydia's abnormalities became more and more obvious. I knew that playing dumb would only make the problem deeper and deeper. Once a rift appears in a marriage, it can easily spread. I knew that if I didn't take action, Lydia and I would face a decisive test of our relationship for more than a decade. In the face of all the problems in the marriage, I once naively thought that with more patience and tolerance, everything would be fine again. However, the reality mercilessly broke my fantasy. I began to pay close attention to Lydia's every move, trying to find the reason behind her behavior. I snooped through her cell phone, checked her phone records, and even stalked her a few times. I used to trust her so much, but now I had to use such despicable means to pry into her private life, and the guilt and self-loathing in my heart almost drowned me. However, All my efforts only reinforced my conviction that Lydia was drifting away from me. The mysterious man was appearing more and more frequently, and her indifference to me was becoming more and more obvious. I was almost consumed by despair, but I was not willing to give up. I knew that if I didn't find out the truth, I would live in pain and doubt forever. In the midst of my dilemma, my loyal assistant, Martha, stepped forward. As my right-hand woman, she had noticed something was wrong with me. Outraged to learn the truth, Martha offered to help me investigate. With Martha's help, the truth began to emerge. With the help of Martha, the truth began to emerge. Surveillance footage and credit card records showed that Lydia had been with the young artist, Damien, for almost 6 months. They had been seeing each other frequently, and the amount of money Lydia had spent on him was staggering. Each piece of evidence was like a sharp knife, piercing my heart. I felt the sky spinning and my ears buzzing. The sweet memories of the past came like a tidal wave, but were shattered in front of reality. I don't understand. Why is Lydia doing this to me? Did I do something wrong? Is there any way to save our marriage? All these questions were swirling in my mind, and I couldn't get them out of my head. What hurts me most is that Lydia still refuses to admit it in the face of overwhelming evidence. She explained that Damien was only a partner in the charity, and that her feelings for me had never changed. I smiled bitterly and shook my head. Lydia, do you really think that a couple who has been in love for more than 10 years can't see that you've changed? Do you really think that a husband would be willing to be a fool in the dark? I decided that I couldn't go on being weak. I had to talk to Lydia, even if it didn't turn out the way I wanted. I planned carefully and waited for the right moment. And that day came soon enough. At the annual charity dinner, when I once again saw Lydia and Damien eye to eye look, the long-accumulated emotions instantly broke out. I marched up and in front of everyone, I asked my wife why she was hurting me like this. At the charity dinner, I finally found the courage to confront Lydia in public, and she was horrified at my rebuke. Then she put on a brave face and denied my accusations. She argued that I had misunderstood her relationship with Damien and that they were just discussing a charity project. I sneered and threw the photo in my hand in front of her. In the photo, Lydia and Damien were kissing in some private place without any intention of avoiding it. I questioned her. Is this about a charity program? Lydia's face turned pale, and she stammered for words. The guests were in an uproar, watching in disbelief as the former lovebirds staged this farce in full view of the public. I could no longer control my emotions. Anger, sadness, despair. All the negative emotions came out in a flash. I screamed hysterically at Lydia, asking her why she had betrayed our marriage and why she had destroyed our relationship over the years. Under pressure, Lydia finally admitted her relationship with Damien. She apologized to me in tears, saying that she never meant to hurt me, but was just overwhelmed by the excitement of the moment. She begged me to forgive her this time and vowed never to do it again. However, I could no longer trust any of her promises. I coldly looked at this once loved woman, only feel strange and detached. The relationship of more than 10 years was so easily buried by her hand. I turned my face away from Lydia, not wanting to look at her again. I told her that since she had made her choice, she should not look back. From now on, we're strangers and have nothing more to do with each other. Lydia cried even harder and kept pleading with me to give her a chance to start over. People around me also urged me not to get carried away and to give the marriage another chance. Lydia's betrayal was like a pot of cold water that doused the last flicker of hope in my heart. I turned around and left the dinner party, leaving Lydia's pleas behind. That night, I sat in the duty room of the hospital until dawn. I looked numbly out the window at the whitening sky. My mind was blank. Years of beautiful memories flashed before my eyes like a lantern, and the sweetness of the past now seemed so ironic. I do not understand why a person in the marriage to pay all the heart, but in the end in return for betrayal and hurt. I don't understand why love ends up as a heartbreaking pain. It was dawn, and I rubbed my sore eyes wearily. Since Lydia had already made her choice, why should I dwell on it? Giving each other a new start might be the best option. After making up my mind, I dialed my lawyer's number. I'm divorcing Lydia, and I'm going to end this painful marriage. As soon as I decided to get divorced, I started preparing for it. As a successful heart surgeon, I never imagined that I would one day experience the pain of divorce. At one time, I thought that if I loved someone with all my heart, my marriage would last forever. However, the reality slapped me in the face. Lydia seemed to realize the seriousness of the problem and started to make amends. She admitted her mistakes and begged me for forgiveness, while at the same time she defended herself and even accused me of not caring enough for her. In the face of her pestering, I just feel extremely tired. The beautiful memories of love have been replaced by the shadow of betrayal, and no amount of words can undo it. I firmly told Lydia that since she chose to betray, she should have the courage to bear the consequences. I would not believe any more of her promises. Divorce lawsuits have been going on for a long time. There was a lot of back and forth over property and honor. I hired the best team of lawyers, and Lydia wasn't shy. There was no end in sight to the private fights and the courtroom confrontations. To add to my devastation, the divorce drama gradually spread throughout the upper-class social circles. People began to look at me with strange eyes, whispering about the reasons for my divorce. Some tabloids even added to the rumor, making a big deal out of our marriage. In no time, the name Roland became the talk of the town. I wanted to end the drama as soon as possible, but I realized that things were not as simple as I had imagined. Lydia began to be erratic, sometimes asking to get back together, sometimes threatening to make me lose my reputation. She even threatened to kill herself to force me to comply. I felt physically and mentally exhausted from all the pressures that came my way. I made a lot of mistakes at work, and I was depressed in my life. I began to drink heavily and even took tranquilizers to escape the pain of reality. It was my loyal assistant, Martha, who pulled me in just in time. She went out of her way to help me and dealt with all the difficult issues I had to deal with. From contacting lawyers to calming my nerves, from sorting through evidence to dealing with the media, Martha took all the stress off my shoulders. With Martha's encouragement, I was able to pull myself together. I began to look at my pain and stopped running away from it. I went back to work and filled the void with a sense of accomplishment on the operating table. I joined counseling and learned to forgive and let go. Gradually, I came out of my emotional haze. Although the scars are still there, but I have learned to live with it. I understand that the road of life is still long. There will always be a new landscape waiting ahead. After more than a year, Lydia and I have finally settled our divorce case. Although I lost my marriage, I found myself again. Looking at the sunshine outside the courthouse, I took a deep breath and moved on to a new life. However, little did I know that the gears of fate were just beginning to turn. A greater test awaited me ahead. Coming out of the haze of divorce, I thought life would be back on track. However, the deep wounds in my heart could not be healed easily. Lydia's betrayal still woke me up like a nightmare in the dead of night. I often sat alone in the darkness until dawn, letting the pain and sadness sweep over me. Gradually, the pain turned into anger, and the anger turned into a desire for revenge. I began to want to take revenge on Lydia uncontrollably, to let her taste the price of betraying me. This thought grew like a weed and gradually took over my whole heart. I knew I couldn't fight Lydia alone. She's backed by a powerful family and has connections in high society. And although I'm a renowned doctor, I'm a complete novice when it comes to revenge. I started secretly gathering information about Lydia, trying to find her weaknesses. I hired private detectives to follow her every move, tapped her phone, investigated her social circle. I even posed as a philanthropist to get close to her insiders and get first-hand information. Over the course of a few months, I accumulated a wealth of information. From Lydia's daily schedule to her relationships, from her finances to her health records, I had almost every aspect of her life. And yet, I still couldn't find a single breakthrough that would be fatal. At my wit's end, my assistant Martha came to my aid again, reminding me that instead of wasting my time on Lydia, I should target her lover Damien, the young artist who, after all, had ruined our marriage. Martha's advice was a revelation, and I instantly realized that this was the shortest route to revenge. I immediately shifted my focus and began to investigate Damien's background. Soon, I found some interesting clues. As it turns out, Damien's art career hides a lot of dirty secrets behind the scenes. He is suspected of utilizing the art trade for money laundering and is also involved in some illegal underground transactions. What's more, he also utilized his fame to cheat ignorant art lovers and make huge profits. My heart leapt for joy. Damien's reputation would be in tatters if this evidence was made public. Not only will his reputation be ruined, but Lydia's as well. The adulterous couple will finally pay for what they have done. I started working on my revenge plan. I organized the information I had in my possession into a book and prepared to make it public at an opportune moment. I also contacted some friends in the media and the art world to prepare for the publicity. Everything seemed to be in order, and victory was at hand. However, just as I was about to launch my attack, an unexpected discovery brought my revenge plans to a screeching halt. In the course of investigating Damien, I inadvertently discovered some secrets about Lydia. This secret not only overturned all my knowledge about her, but also pushed the whole incident into an unpredictable direction. When I learned about Lydia's shocking secret from the information, I was in a state of shock and bewilderment. However, my professional ethics prevented me from revealing this secret to the public. As a doctor, I have a duty to protect my patients' privacy. Besides, I needed more time to digest the facts and clear my mind. I decided to target Damien as the main target of my revenge. After all, he was the one who interfered in our marriage and ruined my relationship with Lydia. I started to collect all kinds of negative information about Damien, ready to wait for an opportunity to take action. I soon discovered some of Damien's art dealings. He was suspected of laundering money through art trading and using his fame to cheat art lovers. I summarized the evidence and prepared to disclose it at a later date. I first revealed Damien's scandal to some of my friends in the media. Damien's reputation was in tatters as his works were boycotted. His exhibitions were suspended and his sponsors withdrew their funding. His works were boycotted, his exhibitions were suspended, his sponsors withdrew their money, and Damien's reputation was in tatters. Next, I targeted Damien's financial lifeblood. I commissioned a law firm to send a letter questioning the operation of his art foundation and to report him for tax evasion. Under the pressure of both the law and public opinion, Damien was soon in trouble. He had to sell his real estate, antiques, and other assets to pay off his debts and penalties. Watching my once vigorous rival fall into such a state made me feel a little bit happy. But at the same time, I also know that Lydia is the root cause of all this. Without her betrayal, our marriage would not have come to this point. I began to think about whether or not I should take action against Lydia as well. On the one hand, I still had a grudge against her for what she had done, but on the other hand, I couldn't bear the thought of hurting my former lover. More importantly, Lydia holds a secret about me. If it became public, my reputation and my career would be equally devastated. While I was in a state of uncertainty, an unexpected revelation broke the ice. I accidentally realized that Lydia was investigating my past at the same time she was betraying me. She seemed to sense something was wrong and was trying to find out what it was. At once, I realized that things were not that simple. This farce of betrayal seemed to hide a bigger secret behind it. An ominous feeling enveloped me, and I vaguely felt that the truth might push my life once again into an unpredictable abyss. Where do I go from here? Should I stop and let Lydia go? Or should I tell the truth and reveal the secret that has been sealed for many years? Hesitation, uncertainty, fear, all kinds of emotions in my heart intertwined. I fell into an unprecedented confusion. Perhaps it's time to face the truth. Regardless of the outcome, I must muster the courage to lift the suffocating veil. When I found out that Lydia was investigating my past, a chill ran through my body. For years, I had carefully guarded that secret, fearing that one day it would be exposed to the light of day. But now that the secret seems to have become a bargaining chip in Lydia's hands, I'm forced to face it head-on. I began to recall that night many years ago. At that time, I was just a newly graduated internist, full of enthusiasm and ideals for medicine. However, an unexpected discovery led me to the first quagmire of my life. That night, while on night duty, I inadvertently witnessed a medical malpractice. In order to cover up his mistake, a highly respected chief physician had altered the medical and surgical records. The patient happened to be a famous entrepreneur and a big client of the hospital. Faced with the double pressure of authority and interest, my young self chose to remain silent. My ideals told me to reveal the truth, but reality warned me to remain silent. In the end, under the coercion of my superiors, I signed a non-disclosure agreement and became an accomplice to the secret. Over the years, this secret has followed me around and become a permanent pain in my heart. Although I have made a name for myself in the medical field with my exceptional talent, deep down, I have never forgiven myself for my cowardice. Every time I think of the patient who died as a result of medical malpractice, I feel deeply guilty and uneasy. Now, the secret was tied to Lydia's betrayal. After investigation, I found out that the patient was Lydia's father. No wonder she betrayed me while secretly investigating my past. Could it be that this marriage was a scam from the beginning? For a while, all kinds of speculations and assumptions were swirling in my mind. I felt like I was in the middle of a huge conspiracy, with every step full of unknowns and risks. I didn't know how many secrets Lydia had about me, nor did I know what her ultimate goal was. I began to re-examine our marriage. In retrospect, Lydia's love for me always seemed to have an indefinable distance. She always avoided talking about my past, as if she was trying to hide something. Could it be that this was all an elaborate deception on her part? All the doubts and suspicions kept me awake at night. I knew that the only way to find out the truth was to confront him face to face. But I also knew that once we opened Pandora's box, our relationship would never be the same again. I began secretly gathering information about Lydia, trying to find out her motives for investigating me. At the same time, I also strengthened the secrecy of my past to prevent secrets from leaking out. I knew that an undercurrent had begun, and the loser would probably lose everything. After a few rounds, I finally found some key clues. It turned out that the truth of the medical malpractice years ago was much more complicated than I had imagined. An amazing conspiracy was slowly unfolding in front of my eyes, and everything seemed to have been premeditated for a long time. I was just a pawn in this conspiracy, and sadly, I didn't even realize it. The sad thing is, I didn't even realize it, but I was still immersed in my self-righteous sense of justice, and Lydia's investigation into my betrayal was probably just a cover. And I was afraid that the real purpose was to blackmail me into giving in to her. Anger, humiliation, unwillingness, all kinds of emotions tossed in my heart. I swear, no matter what the cost, I will reveal the truth of this shocking secret. Even if I have to be the enemy of the whole family, even if I have to break up with my former lover, I also do not hesitate. When the veil of truth was finally lifted, I felt a sense of suffocating despair. It turned out that the medical malpractice many years ago was just the beginning, and there was a bigger secret hidden behind it. And I was just one of the victims of this secret. It turns out that my father-in-law, Lydia's father, was suspected of a major economic crime during his lifetime. He used his power and resources to manipulate the financial market and made huge profits. The medical malpractice was just a smokescreen to divert attention. What's worse, Lydia's family has been manipulating all of this. They used my youthful mistakes to make me their pawn. My marriage, my career, even my entire life, has been an elaborate deception. Lydia's betrayal of me was just part of the plot. She approached me to spy on me, to make sure I wouldn't reveal my secrets. Her affair with Damien was an elaborate trap to make me lose my mind, so that I would be easier to control. This truth, like a hammer blow, completely shattered my world. I felt as if I had lost all my dignity and self-respect. For many years, I thought I was a decent and kind person, but now I seem to be nothing more than a puppet at the mercy of others. I fell into a deep state of self-doubt and denial. I began to question my life and my choices. If even the people closest to me could betray me, who else could I trust? If even the most sacred marriage can become a lie, what is the meaning of life? I began to give up on myself and became addicted to alcohol and drugs. I avoided work, alienated my friends, and closed myself off completely. The ideals and ambitions I once had seemed so naive and ridiculous. It was as if I had lost all the meaning of life. Just when I was sinking, my loyal assistant Martha came to my aid again. She came to my rescue and accompanied me out of the doldrums of my life, against all odds. She told me that the truth, though harsh, was better than a lie. She encouraged me to get back on my feet, face reality, and start a new life. Inspired by Martha, I finally found the courage to live. I decided that I couldn't give up so easily. I had to fight for my life. Even if the road ahead was full of thorns, even if I had to fight against the whole world, I had to defend my dignity. I began to re-examine it all. I realized that although I was a victim, I was not an innocent victim. The mistakes of years ago, while understandable, are not forgivable. I have a responsibility to be accountable for my choices and an obligation to expose the truth and seek justice. I began to gather evidence in secret, preparing to launch a counterattack against Lydia's family. I contacted some of my old colleagues and friends for help and support. I knew it wouldn't be an easy fight, but I was ready. At the same time, I began to rebuild my inner world with the help of counseling. I learned to forgive myself and accept myself. I realized that setbacks and failures are inevitable in life, and the key is to learn from them and move on. Gradually, I have come out of the darkness of my life. Although the scars are still there, I have learned to live with them. I know that only by facing my inner vulnerability can I find myself again. When I made up my mind to expose the truth and fight for my life, I knew it wouldn't be easy. Lydia's family had deep roots, and they controlled a lot of resources in business and politics. I, on the other hand, was just a commoner, with some fame and status, but still insignificant compared to them. But I was not deterred by these difficulties. My years as a doctor have taught me to be resilient and patient. I understand that no operation can be accomplished overnight, and that every treatment requires a gradual approach. It also takes time and strategy to uncover the truth and win justice. I began to gather evidence in an organized manner. I looked at tons of information and interviewed countless people who had knowledge of the case. From the initial medical malpractice to the subsequent financial scandal, I organized all the clues and details into files. I knew that only when I had enough evidence would I be able to crush my opponent at the critical moment. At the same time, I started to work on my network. I contacted some friends in the legal profession and the media, hoping to get their help. I was touched that when they learned the truth, they did not hesitate to show their support. They told me that justice may be late, but it will never be absent. In the process of gathering evidence and preparation, I was also reflecting on my own life. I recalled my ideals and beginnings, and the reasons why I chose to become a doctor in the first place. I realized that although I had achieved a certain amount of success over the years, in terms of morality and conscience, I had actually been at a standstill. It's time to make a change. I want to re-examine my values and outlook on life and redefine my life goals. I want to become a more upright, brave, and responsible person. I want to pursue excellence not only in my career, but also in my moral progress and self-improvement. Thus, in the midst of grueling preparations and self-reflection, time passed day by day. Finally, after gathering enough evidence, I decided to launch a general attack. I joined forces with the media to expose the Lydia family's crimes to the public. From the initial medical malpractice to the subsequent economic crimes, all the truths were revealed in front of hard evidence. Lydia's family tried to make a last-ditch effort, but under the pressure of public opinion they collapsed, with Lydia's father going to prison, other members of the family being brought to justice, and Lydia herself, who was not directly involved in the crime, being held responsible. Her career and reputation were devastated. I, on the other hand, had a tough battle, but finally won. More importantly, I have regained myself, my long-lost self-respect and dignity. I realize that the meaning of life does not lie in how much one achieves, but in whether one can face one's heart openly and be faithful to one's own beliefs. The story seems to have come to an end here, but for me, this is not the end, but a new beginning. I will continue to walk on the road of medicine and use my own efforts and specialty to help more people. At the same time, I will also continue to explore the road of life with a broader vision in mind, to embrace the beauty of life. The pain of the past, let it go with the wind. The road ahead is still long and has infinite possibilities, and I will be a new self to meet every challenge and opportunity in life. This is my story. It's ordinary, but it's also legendary. I hope that my experience can give those who are struggling in the trough of life some inspiration. No matter what mistakes you have made, no matter what difficulties you are facing, do not give up hope. As long as you are willing to face the truth, as long as you are willing to fight for yourself, you will find your own way out. Remember, the night will pass and the dawn will come, and the better you will be reborn in the fire of suffering. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.